Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
I suck, you suck, I suck at Call of Duty.
Welcome to the Not Playing Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and today I'm joined by
Marcus Hurley.
And
Well,
okay, we're back again, and the world is opening up, but we're still playing games.
This country
So
is
yeah,
opening up.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we are.
The rest of the
lucky, I
world's
suppose.
stuttering and falling in some places, so I guess all we've got are games to kind of keep our spirits up and things going.
And
I
beer.
don't mean that
and beer.
in a negative way, but I mean, like, you know, yeah, we're doing our
Yeah.
best to keep things more normal.
Sorry, I just have to, Rob started on a positive note. I threw the curveball in, and we've managed to turn it back into.
And I just stuck
we
a
are
claymore in front of
surviving
it.
the apocalypse.
Which is ironic, because none of us are
Misery.
playing post-apocalyptic games now.
That's true, actually. And there, but there
Will,
were
you
some
peaked too soon.
post-apocalyptic games. Oh, there were some post-apocalyptic games featured amongst the winners of this year's BAFTAs, though, which somehow managed to happen.
Ooh, Segway King.
I try,
Nice.
trying to steer this ship, barely.
I agree with some of these, though.
Yeah, I mean, Hades kind of cleaned up. I think you could say.
Hades is an amazing game. I've played a little bit of it. It's one of those ones that looks so superficial, and you think it is just a really simple sort of old school coin op. You go through, you keep going through the level, but that's part of the storyline that you're meant to die and start again and get stronger as you keep going through it all. But
Yeah, I've played some of their games, but yeah, I've not touched this one yet.
Yeah, I got a
think
Steam
it's because
refund. Not my bag.
Yeah.
no, it's tough.
Why is that then?
I just didn't like it. Just didn't work for me. Didn't click for me. I got it on PC. I think I was trying to play it on the wrong format to me. I think I accidentally also bought it a long time before because I just noticed it in my Switch library a couple of weeks ago. So maybe it's a bit more of a commute time killer game rather than a sit down to play games game. I shall try it from that view because apparently it's amazing, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
one
it's
of
on
those
the Switch,
games
isn't
when
it?
you
So-
build on it, and it's just like, it's one of them ones where as you get into it and you put a bit of effort into it, you start to open up the rewards from it. So like I say,
Yeah.
it looks a bit superficial when you first start, and you think, oh, is that all there is to it? Like a bit of a dreary storyline. He's trying to escape his father's dungeon. But the more characters you meet and the dialogue, it gets funnier and stuff, and some of it's quite cool, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
So
I get that. It just failed to hook me from the start. So
Yeah.
I'll give it another chance at some point because, as I say, I think I own it. I own 2 copies of a game I didn't like.
Yeah, I mean, I've got games that won BAFTAs last year that I still haven't started. And this Hades is the only one that's like screaming out, like I may have missed something really good, you know. But like the thing about my relationship with Supergiant Games is that I think they're really good in terms of like presentation, and like their soundtracks are always amazing. I mean, I listen to them while I'm working sometimes, you know, great soundtracks, but I never really get massively into the game. It's always just a little bit too simplistic to me, a bit too abstracted, or abstract maybe. But I know people are loving this, so I feel like maybe they finally kind of struck gold on this one.
Yeah.
Although, you know, not to discredit stuff like Bastion, which, you know, was critically lauded at the time.
Yeah, it's one of those weird games.
They're a bunch of ex-game journalists, I think, that founded the company. So they're very kind of, you know, they've seen both sides of it, you know. But obviously, like Animal Crossing, that was represented. Spider-Man, Miles Morales. And Last of Us 2, of course, won a few. That got Game of the Year. But nothing else on there I feel like I haven't played. That I Carrion, I played a bit of that on Switch. Sadly, haven't finished it simply because I don't use my Switch anymore. As I was explaining to a friend over the weekend, it's basically my Switch is now a holder for the charging cable for my phone and my iPad. So it doesn't fall on the floor.
Yeah. I think you didn't even buy the dockable version, which you may have played on with your giant telly, but that was your commuting console
device,
ever since commuting stopped being a thing, temporarily or otherwise, I can understand why you not got the use. On the bright side, nice catalogue of games for when you do start again.
Well, yeah, and also I've just got my COVID vaccine appointment sorted, both of them, and because you have to put them both at the same time on the thing, and I just did it today, and I've got to go down to fucking Basildon for that.
Yeah.
So
you poor sod.
I might.
It's all right.
I'll probably end up playing Carrion all the way there and all the way back.
Yeah.
The 100
It's a precursor. Well, at least
it's like an hour 15
if
each
you
way,
mutate,
so.
you'll know what to do then, because you'd have played it as well, so it's
Yeah. I had to book the other one. All the options it gave me for my second jab was the weekend of John's birthday and the day of my cousin's wedding the weekend after that. So I'm going to basically have to get back from wherever we're going and then go straight up to fucking Bas Vegas again.
Yeah.
So,
lovely.
I digress. Yeah. Okay, so that's the BAFTAs. Moving on, and I think this is just going to be the general theme for the year, is stuff getting delayed. And one thing that I thought was absolutely nailed on was Deathloop, because they had been hyping that release date for months, way before Christmas even. But all of a sudden...
Also, it was meant
it's
to be
not
a
coming
launch
out.
window game at first, so, I mean, it was already had been pushed back hard. So, pushing back to autumn, have they set a date that they pushed it back to? God.
Yep, September the 14th.
That's a 10-month delay.
Yeah. That sounds strategic. I mean, me and Rob had the briefest of exchanges over messages about it, where I said it seems like something based on the recent Bethesda acquisition by Microsoft, and this could be not just a polish thing, but it could be a launch delay strategy.
No, they've signed a deal for exclusivity with Sony, so that release date is still only for PlayStation 5 and PC.
Yeah, and it would be a year's exclusivity, so it wouldn't be in Microsoft's interest to delay the game, because they would still have to wait a year.
Maybe then it's a Sony thing to stick one up to Microsoft.
Or it could be that they're not happy with the game. And just want it to be better when it comes out. It's in Microsoft's interests to the Sony fans to demonstrate that this is the last Bethesda game that's on this console. Look how bloody good that was. You might want to come and play with us, guys. Right? There's good reasons for that game to come out in the best possible shape without politics behind it, but to make it a bloody good game. Or it could be full of politics. Who can say? But I'd like to think the best of it and just say those guys at Arcane... Arcane is a cracking studio. Dishonored game's absolutely magnificent. It looks super cool. And if I've got to wait until after the summer, which is when I'm hoping to be playing minimal games this year, because life, if allowed, I'll look forward to it in autumn, maybe even on a PS5. Happy days.
If you read the actual statement that they released, they're saying, we're committed to quality and preserving our team's ambitions for Deathloop while ensuring the health and safety of everyone at Arcane. So something here suggests to me that they might have been hoping to get their staff back into the office earlier. Yeah. And so because
I think they're talking about not.
I think
they're not talking. They're talking about not crunching as well.
Yeah.
And whilst not wanting to bring up xenophobic stereotypes, the French will cheerfully strike. If they're not happy with things.
And not only that, there was that whole... Don't forget, that's part of the reason CDPR suffered a bit of backlash. Because they had a horrible crunch session before, and it became public knowledge. And it almost undid all of the goodwill that they did before the game came out. Because they seemed to be a company where they were saying, when it's ready, it's ready. We're anti, establishment and everything. And and then you kind of fall into the
They
whole
turned
industry of forcing your team to not see their family for months, and because of the bigwigs, not them, but it's the money people.
Yeah.
But
another.
I was saying what you were saying about the whole Sony thing. I think you're right. I think it is a Polish thing because Sony want the very best for their PS. Very Polish. Yeah. Sonitsky want the best for their console, don't they? The PS5 is all about AAA or as close to in your field you can get.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, bear in mind, Sony still haven't allowed, I think, Cyberpunk back on the PlayStation Store.
Until they won't until they get it fixed, until they get it close to what they delivered, and then they will.
I did read though a thing about that. That at the moment they've been they've been working like 60-40 on like getting the game up to scratch and also on additional content. And apparently that distribution is swinging further away from the bug fixes and more into like additional content, because I think they want to sort of sustain the install base as it is, but they are still like the priority number one is to get it past certification on PlayStation. Wow. But yeah, no, the other thing I was thinking about the whole Deathloop delay is that I wonder if they're thinking in the same way that the general economy is expected to have this massive bounce back, like once things unlock, which would be around May. I wonder if they're expecting perhaps an opposite effect for the gaming industry that so far has thrived in this pandemic.
That's a good point. Everyone's going to be outside and pretty closer to holiday.
Well, yes and no. I mean, just don't forget we're talking about the current circumstances in the UK. And a lot of the other markets are working very differently around the world at the moment. So I can see a perspective of it, but don't forget what summer here is not summer on the other side of the world. And in all sorts of regions, different things work. I know we're just coming out of lockdown in the UK, but trust me, Sony couldn't give that much of a shit. They're not running it by our market.
Yeah. No, Japan's very much still having an issue. Because I mentioned the last podcast.
US is kind of in a similar state to us, though. I mean, obviously varies from state to state, but I think they seem to be following a similar wave to us.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, endless speculation, I suppose. But I'll just be glad to play the game when it's out. It's just a bummer, really, for anyone who. Well, if they more bothered than me about it, but I mean, I couldn't give a shit. But
I just want some new games that are my kind of games.
Yeah,
there's like nothing coming out for these new consoles. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. Like nothing. Like there's a few, like I guess what you'd call like launch window games coming out, but nothing that anyone cares about. I suppose the next one really is Resident Evil 8.
I'll be fair, Rob, though. PS4, I remember because I got my PS4 well early in that generation. And I remember because I sold my PS3 to help raise money for it. And I remember sitting there thinking, because there wasn't even back compatibility then. I remember sitting there going, shit, there's loads of good PS3 games coming out and there's nothing ready on the PS4. It was really light. It's the same situation. You know, you get towards the end of this. It was after about year one that the games really start rolling, and I think it's going to be the same.
Yeah. Oh, well, at least I'm glad that I'm just pacing myself with Valhalla then. I'll just play that this year. I doubt I'll finish it much before then.
Christ.
Right, okay.
Well,
so,
speaking of PS3, I've got a little bit of news. Sony are discontinuing, and this is just like a public service thing, Sony are discontinuing their PS3 games section on the PSN store, which you can't access normally.
I thought they've reversed that.
No,
I thought they've reversed that.
In July, it's happening. As far as I know, unless there's something that's literally just come in.
Well, in the last couple of days...
Oh, wow.
It was announced they were doing... There was a big backlash because they kind of said, we're taking it all down, you won't be able to get it anymore. To which people said, but we own those games. How are we expected to? And I believe the Sony have U-turned on that.
Oh, wow. Awesome, because I was about to get my PS3 out and start downloading all the shit I owned.
When did they say they were going to do it?
It was in July, but they've already started closing some bits down apparently already.
No. Oh, right, so it was in March It was in March they reported that they would be shut down.
Yeah.
This was immediately met with backlash.
Yeah.
And then on April the 19th, they said, oh no, sorry, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
So
that's weird because I've seen a couple of things since then and they've said that it's still, some parts of it, some games and stuff have actually been taken off. So they were in the process of doing the early stuff. So some of it was already being
it may be
kind
that
of like a
stuff
closing
coming
down
back.
sale. But yeah, I mean, I know, but it's just
Apparently,
it made me think, oh, maybe I should get my PS3 out again and just download some of those digital games that I was going to play again. Because I'm kind of going through a bit of a retro kick at the moment.
would you... See, I just don't value any of that. I won't ever play any of my old games
I won't.
again.
Oh, I would. A lot of them you can't get on any other format. So a lot of the old Marvel
I don't care because
versus...
I'm never going to play them.
Yeah, but that's the difference between you and me, though, isn't it? I mean, you know, it saves me having to go the whole emulation route and stuff, get a PC to do that and everything. I'm like, well, I've got two pads.
I think that's the interesting thing. So there's a couple of approaches, interestingly. So I renewed my PlayStation Now annual subscription. There's a surprising PS3 backlog on there.
Yeah.
But it's only streaming and it depends on your connection, etc. But I don't. If those things, my gut instinct is what Sony should be doing, just like the PS4 games are compatible, is there shouldn't really be much reason to not make the PS3 games backwards compatible with PS4 5.
No.
At which point they can keep the store open.
But some of them were like weird games that only existed in certain points in time. I'm talking about the kind of weird old beat 'em up ones, like the crossover event ones and stuff, like Marvel vs. Capcom and stuff, which could only exist then pre-Disney.
Right.
Also, PS3 games
like
were all written with
that bonkers chipset.
Yeah, so they weren't as easily portable.
I was just wondering if something with enough power like the PS5 should be able to emulate even the bizarre mismatch, because every component should be better, right? Or is that oversimplifying?
Yeah.
It depends, because they tried emulation and sometimes they get it wrong. Like, remember the PlayStation Mini? That basically was an emulation machine rather than a mini PlayStation. And the emulator in that, people said, was horrendous. It was actually inferior to ones that already existed. In fact, if you flashed the hardware, installed an emulator from online, it ran better. It ran a lot of the games at 60 and stuff and everything. But, yeah, I don't know.
I must admit, I'm with Rob. I mean, I had the Mega Drive emulator, the little the mini Mega Drive, and I did enjoy that. The wife and I played Streets of Rage 2 and Toe Jam and Earl together, and a couple of things. But once done, I think I could give it another 10 years before I go back.
Yeah,
it was nice to relive the memories, but
I just miss a lot of the RPGs and stuff that I played back in the day, because that seems to be a genre that's kind of dropped off now. And so the only way you do play a lot of them are retro-style ones. You'll get remakes and stuff like the Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana and stuff like that pop up every now and then. But, you know, they're games that I happily play. Yeah, but Rob, you're a different branch of the gaming tree. Half of the stuff that you play, like A Plague's Tale, I'm never going to touch with a flaming barge pole.
Why?
Because I don't care. To put it blunt.
Yeah, but I just don't know. I don't know where. I don't know where I would, even if I wanted to play an old game.
This is the point. You wouldn't, so you're fine. You don't need to worry about it.
No, but I don't know where I would find the time. I barely find the time to play games that come out now.
True.
Let alone a fucking 40-hour RPG from 1985. Like, I don't know where. I don't see the value of it. I mean, it's like, I'd rather just. Why don't you just watch a trailer on YouTube if you miss it? Like, I mean,
it's not.
Are you really going to invest that much time, man? I just don't see it.
I've actually played retro games pretty much almost all console generations, so I don't really feel pressured or anything by what you're saying. It's just part of the way that I game. Every now and then I go back and I play retro games. I always have.
Some
I
people
always
enjoy
will.
black and white films, and other people will argue that what's the point? You've got colour and there's 3D.
Well, not
ones
even
now.
the black and white films. It's film. Some people will look at films like Die Hard and go, "Oh, that's old." Never Ending Story. All of those films, and say, "Why would I ever watch those?" Willow. They would go like all of the classics. They would say, why
Willow!
would I ever watch films like that when I can watch all of these new ones, when I can watch Fast and Furious? You know, it's
Fast and Furious got everything. It's got cars, it's got guns,
it's got
tits.
Fast, and it's got
Awesome.
Furious, and it's got numbers. So
it's not really like the presentation or how old it is. It's whether it's the simple fact that I've played it already.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I've got a list along as my
No,
arm
I could totally
of
get
games that I haven't played,
Rob.
And so I can't think about
Rob,
old games
Rob.
because I still have new games and old games
He's
that
not
I
asking
haven't
you.
yet played.
He's not asking you to, though.
Rob,
Right?
stop it. This is not for you, man. Stop. It's too soon. It's not for you. You know, it's kind of like me asking you to play Gran Turismo. I know there's no way on God's green earth you're going to give a shit about that. But that is a very popular game.
I might do.
Well,
I might play that.
Played a couple in the past. I don't even really care about it anymore. It just happens.
No, I wouldn't play that.
People play certain games, and that includes some retro games, and that's why some series has come back, and that's why you get some remakes like, what was it, Link's Awakening and stuff on the Switch, because they can find a way to make money out of people that want to play these old games. We've got into it, so I'm just
I know, and
abbreviating it.
they charge 50 or 60 quid for
That's
these
a
fucking
Nintendo
old
tax.
remakes.
So I do have one question. So
Yeah.
what's the point in the Final Fantasy VII remake?
I know, you still haven't finished that, have you?
I'm finished. I'm playing it still.
Sorry, for the listeners, that was one I don't want an answer to from either of these fuckers, because
know
I
what
think
the
we did
point
an
is, but I'm not
entire
gonna say.
episode on this last year.
I'll put it in an
I
email.
just feel us going down that rabbit hole.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Rob. I'll get my quill pen and ink, and I'll jot it down on parchment paper and send it to you via pigeon. Just for that extra retro touch.
Unfortunately, Rob gets intimidated by pigeons.
It's a free download on PlayStation Plus now, isn't it?
Wait.
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't even have to buy it now.
Yeah.
So there
That's
you go.
pretty cool, because what that will hopefully get people to do is buy the second and third parts when they're ready. Yeah. Have a little dabble, realise you do like it, see what the fuss is about, buy the next ones. Because they've gotten all the early sales, they will. Totally makes sense.
There'll be another Final Fantasy VII Remake before they finish the second and third parts of this one.
The remaster of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, yeah.
Yeah, that's already happened, isn't it? It's the PS5 one.
Extra.
True.
Yeah, they have.
And they've done it as a free.
It.
And they've done it as a. But they did it as a free upgrade. So if you bought a PS5 and you bought the PS4 one, you can upgrade for free.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
You know?
But if you got it on PS Plus for free, then you need to go and buy a copy if you want to play it on the PS5. And again, that I think is reasonable.
Yeah, because you got it kind of for free, haven't you? So
yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, there's another game got delayed. The Left 4 Dead one.
Oh, Blood for Blood? Blood for something.
That's now just in the interest in making sure that your gaming calendar is as clear as possible. That one's moved to October as well.
Cool.
I think it might be easier next time we record to just report on games that did come out.
Yeah.
There was one. Sorry, what was the one you were talking about to us just before we started recording, Marcus? Last week you played the demo, the fighty, mad Japanese fighty job.
Guilty Gear.
Guilty Gear.
Strive. Yeah, that got delayed.
Because that was looking like a total.
I've pre-ordered
coming out.
2 games for this year. One I've got, and one got delayed. And it's the first pre-order I've kind of done in a long time.
Yeah.
Well, apart from last year.
So Guilty Gear, I mean, it got to the point they got the demo out.
Sorry,
and they've since delayed it.
Really.
So does that mean that? I mean, was there a problem? Were there technical issues found in the demo? Because that's why you do it. No,
the game worked really well. The netcode was actually brilliant. Like I said, I was playing in a previous podcast. I was actually playing against 2 of my brothers who both live in London in separate locations, and it was seamless. I know that's not overseas, but I was playing against people in Japan, and it was actually really good.
Cool.
Really good. The only problem was the lobby system, which allowed you to meet opponents. They kind of have this weird thing where they always need to try and come up with some revolutionary way of meeting people online, rather than just menus and just say, search for a game, location, local, international, Europe, whatever.
Yeah.
They
Set ping.
create this weird lobby system where you're a pixelated character and you're kind of going around in an area left and right. And then you basically go up to someone and you hold a button down if they're not fighting to challenge them, and then they choose a button to agree. And then you can tell if people are fighting because their pixelated characters are engaged in a little fight, like both swinging weapons at each other.
Okay.
Which is weird and typically Japanese, bonkers, you know. Except there are a couple of things, and one of them was when you finished your fight, there was no rematch option. You had to go back to the lobby and you had to wait a few seconds, which sounds really impatient, whilst your characters were still swinging their swords. Then you had to wait, then you had to go back in. And I thought, how did he miss that?
Yeah, I'll be honest, if you've had particularly if it's a nice close match with someone, or you think someone's
and you want to get straight back in there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there should be a both agree in.
In the fighting game community, they call it the run back, where you basically just rerun the fight again, you know, and you want to go straight back in there. And I actually filled in the feedback form from Arc System Works on what was doing that, and apparently that was a common thing. And I had a couple of things put about some of the characters' moves and stuff like that, and whether, you know, actually for the first time in my life, I went quite technical into it, like whether, you know, characters' moves could get them more into an opponent without so much pushback and stuff like that. But anyway, apparently they are making changes to the lobby system, and they are now including bits like getting straight back into matches and everything else, because for some reason that was overlooked. So the delay is basically just changing bits of that. The game itself won't change at all because, my God, it was fun. It was so much fun. My thumb was blistered from all the training. It actually made me go into, and they call it in the sort of beam up kind of thing, they call it labbing now, where you go into practice and you basically, it's almost like a lab. You go into the lab and you work out bits with the characters and go through the training stuff to learn the basics, and then you start to think, well, if I do this move and this move, or delay this and this and this, will that lead up, and start building up combos, attack strings and stuff.
You're getting proper scientific rather than going pure button mashy.
I haven't done that in years, to the point where it actually gave me a PlayStation blister for the first time in God knows how long.
Wow.
Yeah, I was playing that much. I think I only really played against my brothers one day, and that was like an entire evening. But the rest of the time I was in the practice thing until about, I think, 1 a.m, something like that. Yeah. And I was just a man obsessed, because I was just, you know, trying to get the speed of executing stuff faster down and everything, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I walked away just grinning like an absolute bastard, and then I was crying when it got delayed.
Aww.
Yeah, it's out the same day as Ratchet and Clank. Now.
Nice.
I was Ratchet and Clank actually.
We'll both have something to talk about.
Well, I won't, because I haven't got a PlayStation 5, but I'll tell you what, I still reckon I'll play Ratchet and Clank before Rob does.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know.
I've played every single one in that series. They're cracking games.
Yeah,
I might be so desperate to buy a game by then that I might actually get it, you know.
And I must admit,
if it actually comes out then.
I mean, just to see, Ratchet and Clank, I think, is a real next-gen demonstrator. Just for this whole load times, the time warping thing, I think that should be absolutely fascinating to see how it's done. I think you might. I've got a feeling you'll just buy it just to figure that, just to do it, really.
Yeah, well, and it's Insomniac as well, who I obviously have quite a great love for after all the Spider-Man games and everything. So they're a lot higher up on my list of games to play these days. So, yeah. Righto. I've just got one more bit of news that I don't expect to have much of a conversation about. Apparently, Remedy are working on Alan Wake 2, which is a game from fucking years ago.
I remember you really loved that, the first one.
Well, I mean, it was years and years ago I played it, but they did start to sort of hint that there might be more of that after there was some references to it in a recent DLC for Control, which was their most recent game. But yeah, it's kind of like a big melting pot of like Stephen King and Twin Peaks.
Was the first one like the disappearance of Alan Wake or something? I think it was it
Wasn't
called?
that what became of Edith Finch? Edith Finch. You could imagine that Edith Finch and Alan Wake were probably worked in the same office.
Not a million miles away, but the
I've
thing
got
is,
a meeting at
quite
9:30 with Edith and Alan.
Were you going to what?
it was
Alan's
like
Wake? Who's Edith? Who's Edith? Edith doing the catering.
No, the thing is, even though the storyline was very like sort of X-Files and all that, like Twin Peaks stuff, it was very much an action game, which was a bit weird, but it kind of worked. You were just sort of like, you were sort of destroying these shadowy creatures using your torch and stuff, and a few like sort of evasive moves, and it was quite interesting. I think I don't know if you can get it anymore at the moment because it had a lot of licensed music in it. So I think they had to take it down. What the other good thing that I liked about Alan Wake was that it was very episodic. Like, you very much could pick it up and it would have like previously on.
I think my
chapters.
trouble with Alan Wake, and it's probably the reason I haven't played it, is because I've never seen anything particularly exciting that had an Alan involved in the main role.
Alan Rickman.
Yeah, I must. But as a main character, it'd be like, oh, and the new game from George, the new game starring action hero George Humphreys. It's just not. It's just not an action name, is it, Alan?
Not really, no. I suppose it isn't, but I think the idea was it was a Wake, and that's all like a Wake because it's all like dreams and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I think that was where they were going. But
Do you
they
think
could
the
have done
follow-up
something
will be,
other than.
They could have called it
Alan
A Wake.
Yeah, I think that was the idea, but I think Alan was maybe a bit of the
Alan!
wrong one to go.
Alan!
Perhaps
Well, you would be bloody awake if someone's shouting at you like that.
Adrian Wake, Andrew Wake,
Arthur Wake. Arthur Sleep. Yes.
Oh god, that's going to be the sequel, isn't it? That is going to be the sequel.
Arthur Wake. Yeah, bravo. Bravo. Yeah, you win.
Let's end
Right
it
then,
there.
on that-
Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the Not Playing podcast.
On that bombshell, let's move on to some games, what we have been playing, I think.
All right.
Starting with, I guess, that Monster Hunter Rise game.
Yeah.
I played a demo of this, and that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Take it away, Marcus.
I bought the game. I bought the game for Suze for her birthday, or my other half. I pre-ordered the game for my other half in October.
And for Suze.
Yep, she's got a copy. I bought 2 copies of the game. I didn't let that out because I knew you guys would rip me enough.
And what else? What else?
And I waited. I waited until I heard more news on Switch Pro, which I may have mentioned in the previous podcast. Mm-hmm. And then the general consensus was there's too much speculation, too much bullshit, just get a Switch. So I did.
But Marcus, you've got a Switch.
Another Switch.
It's not mine, that's hers.
Ah, Marcus,
It's not my Switch.
you've got a Switch now.
This is my Switch.
So you and the missus
I
have
own
got
a
a Switch for
Switch.
a Switch each and a Monster Hunter each, so you can play
Yep.
Monster Hunter in your garden with your dog at your ankles.
Exactly.
That sounds
Whilst
amazing.
riding on my dog in the game. So
Awesome.
I gotta say, I'm impressed at how the Switch is handling this. I am a little baffled at how it's handling this as well. How
With
does a game...
a reasonably low frame rate, probably? That's
To be honest, it doesn't really matter. No, it doesn't actually drop frames that much. I'm not
Are
sure
you
what's
playing
running
on
at.
are you
No, but I
playing
mean, it's-
on the telly or are
it's
you
not
playing on the
60.
Steam screen?
On both. I've actually played it more on the TV than
Okay.
on the handheld. I've been giving the handheld a go because I haven't played handheld gaming in so long. It feels a little weird. But I've got to say, I'm enjoying the spacing of playing on the handheld Switch more than the dog ear sort of Switch controller.
I don't
That's
like
way
the,
too
the
close.
nunchuck
Why is
controllers.
that so unnaturally close? It feels like you're a rabbit begging for scraps or something as you're sitting there with your thumbs rubbing against each other. It's weird.
I'm sorry. Hang on. Can we just take that apart a little? A rabbit begging for scraps.
I don't know. It's the
Can you do a
posture
little?
it's
if you
the
do an
posture
impression
that,
on the
that
camera,
controller leaves you in. It's like that. You're like this. You know, your hands are almost touching each other using that controller.
Yeah, I would describe it to the listeners, but it's a little bit too arousing. It's probably best if we just move on.
You're on your knees, looking up with puppy eyes, waiting for
Once again
Miyamoto to bless you with his magic dust. Anyway, but no, moving on. Gotta say, the game, a lot of fun. There is a lot of charm to this game. It is ridiculous. Capcom seem to be doing they're continuing what they did with Monster Hunter World, and just there is more in this game than I thought there would be or should be. They've no right to basically make it feel as it feels a bit more old school Monster Hunter. I think I mentioned before, the UI has gone back a bit to traditional Monster Hunter style, the way that health bars look and stuff like that. But the introduction to various bits and pieces, the mobility, you've got these silk binds that, like little bugs that you can kind of Spider-Man across an arena. So you've got mobility options. So at any moment, they've got cooldowns as well. So you've got two silk bind icons at the bottom of the screen in the middle, and using the ZL trigger and a combination of either the X button or I think the A button, correct me if I'm wrong, you'll either launch horizontally forwards, straight forwards, which you can use to then launch yourself into the target and start attacking to cover a lot of ground quickly, or you can go at a 45-degree angle to launching you into the air. And you can also pick up extra items in there. So a lot of the power-ups and stuff that you used to get from either eating meals and stuff in the previous game, you now pick up from Endemic Life. Yep.
So for the purpose of the audience, what's the game about?
Oh, the game is you are a bloke and you kill monsters and you wear their skin for pride. The end.
So that was The Witcher 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, also the Predator. So, but, it's not going to stop these people. Some of the armour looks fucking awesome. You kill something. Half of the fun is, it sounds horrible when you describe it like this, but I don't give a fuck. It's a game. If you're too sensitive, why are you playing a game where you're murdering giant monsters? You go into the armory, the smithery, after you've beaten a creature, or you've damaged it enough and got enough material from fighting it to unlock a certain amount, and you get to see what the armour looks like from killing this creature, and then you go, oh, that looks really cool, that fucker's got to die. And then you go back and then you fight it some more. And it's the same with weapons. Some of the weapons look amazing from some of the creatures. And the whole gimme is that you get certain weapons and stuff. You've got all these different classes. They've got all different weapons. They all look different. Some of them do different things. Some of them have got elemental elements attached to them. And it's the whole thing of leveling up your armor, leveling up weapons. It's the typical MMORPG sort of thing. But it's the ability to play with people where you don't need to actually chat to them. I don't know how it works. I've mentioned this in Monster Hunter World. You team up with people online, and they could be in Korea, they could be in Japan, America, and there is almost the most rudimental communication available. If someone you flash a Riven out of the air, people will know to go and do this. You set up a trap, they'll run, and they'll know to go and lure it to it so it falls in, and then you all just kick the shit out of it. And then, when you've done it right, you just hit a button and do a little communication thing to put a sticker up with a thumbs up or something. There is a chat option, but no one uses it in-game.
So it feels like... Sorry, go on.
The only people that would use, sort of like how we do, say if we're a group of friends and we set up a Discord or something like that, or use PlayStation chat and we all want to hear each other's voices, I imagine that would be the only time where we would use a chat communication setting. But the game just seems to work on its own. I mean, I've played with, they are literally Korean people, and the words are coming up on the screen, and you get a certain amount of built-in shout-outs that you can scroll through and use, which are translated across all of the languages.
Yep.
But a lot of the time, if you put custom stuff in, it comes up in your own language. So they're shouting stuff in Korean and Japanese, and I've got no clue what they're saying. But we're all doing the right thing.
Nice.
And it just seems to be a nice community of people playing this game. You go to like the gathering hub when there's events going on, and people are all there in their costumes running around, people jumping in. The first time I had someone who was like all the level 9s helping me out on a really tough quest when I was like level 10, it blew my mind. You can.
So I'm kind of thinking this is. I know it's not an MMORPG, but
it
you
is.
play Guild Wars. It is really, isn't it? That's
the
what
thing.
it is.
It's both. You play it. You initially play it offline. You can do the whole game single if you want.
Yeah, it's like a lot of those. Yeah, like a lot of those games, you can play it on your own, but the fun is where you group up with people. And maybe
you've basically got two quest sort of style things. You can do the whole meeting up with people in the hub areas where you can see each other's characters, or you can go to the towns where you play it as a single player. But even in the towns where you've got basically just NPCs going around doing their things and stuff, you can still go to the quest boards and join in people's online hunts.
So
you can literally
was Monster Hunter always an MMORPG? Has it always
pretty
been
much,
this kind of game?
That was its big pull. It was always a massive social game, which is why it did so well in Japan and took ages to come out over here, really.
Because that sort of thing just hadn't caught on, yeah.
Well, it's because the PSP, the Vita, they weren't big things over here.
No.
Whereas in Japan, Far East, and even in America, they were. So that's why you have a big American Monster Hunter following and also a big Japanese and Asian. Because they had these handheld devices. All the stuff that we're doing with the Switch, they already had. Which is why the Switch has killed off all the other iterations for Nintendo, because they're not needed.
No, completely agree. They've got enough power. Like I say, if they can produce a beefier Switch, which is good enough to play at home and portably, stick with that. I think it's a good formula for them until they go mad and off-piste and do another mad thing that doesn't work.
There's a PC version coming out. I can't remember when, probably about, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to say a year's time or something. It's usually a lot later.
No, that completely makes sense because the PC is the next online... Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to go to any other consoles, but I think they'll save that for Monster Hunter World 2. Because that seems to be the big outing, and it's done Capcom a world of good in putting it back in people's good books.
I suppose it depends how hard the port is and whether any exclusivity's been signed at the end of the day.
Well, there were a lot of cool little bits, though. When Monster Hunter World first came out, you could play as Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Aloy, yeah. So you had like a layered armour which turned your character into her. And one of the bows from doing one of the quests was her bow. And there was like 2 upgraded versions. So there was a shitload of special quests. There was international quests from Universal Studios Japan, which gave you a very limited edition samurai weapon, which you could only do whenever these event things were going on.
Yeah.
So there's a big... they've really done it well. It doesn't feel... There was one element that did feel a bit grindy. Funny enough, it's called the Guiding Lands, and everyone called it the Grinding Lands. And then they realised that everyone was hating this thing, and they made it more lucrative. But I just feel, because I grew up playing Capcom games. They were one of the companies I would love to have worked from back in the day. And then there was the whole thing of a lot of their video games having content that was sealed away, already available on their disc, but then you're having to purchase DLC to then unlock it.
Street Fighter 5 was that sort of thing.
Or something, I think it was 4 or something like that, and all these other bits, and they kind of were seen as kind of like the beat-em-up EA, where they just didn't seem to give a shit, and they lost faith with a lot of people. But I kind of think the goodwill they've done with Monster Hunter and bringing it to pretty much every system apart from the Switch.
I must admit, it's fascinating. It's fascinating seeing the different software houses go in different directions. Because you look at CDPR, they went from good guys to bad guys.
Yeah.
And I think they've realised...
I think CDPR have become a victim of their own success.
No, they became victims of greed.
Yeah.
They should, or victims of their stakeholders. It wasn't their success. they became victims of putting a game out that wasn't ready to release. That's what they were victims of.
And they should have known, yeah. They should have known better.
Yeah, that game was not ready.
But anyway, this game, I can see why it's getting all the reviews. I haven't played a whole lot of it, and I'm still getting to grips with it, and I'm quite a seasoned hunter in the in World. And there's a lot of craziness. I was talking about how the game handles it, because it runs on Capcom's RE engine, which they're using for Resident Evil and everything. It's the same engine for Resident Evil 8, the same thing for everything. So the scalability of this engine they've built, it is so robust, it's ridiculous. On the TV, it doesn't look too far off Monster Hunter World, which is kind of nuts considering it's a Switch. Also,
Monster
the
Hunter
number
World
of
is an
number
old
of
game, though.
World,
Monster Hunter World is an old game.
I suppose it is. Was it midway through the PS4 generation? I mean, it can't be that new.
I don't know, actually.
It can't be that
it's only
new,
about
Marcus.
4... It's only about 4... When did it come out?
I was going to say, all I was going to say is it can't be that new.
2018.
It was your game of the year for 3 years running.
Yeah, 2018 I think it came out, because they said they were going to give it a year of...
Can I put my hand up and
got...
call Marcus's game of the year for this year?
I don't know. I don't know. It depends when Guilty Gear comes out.
I think it's a bit premature for that, Will.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's only April.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling Marcus will be playing Monster Hunter for the rest of the year and next.
I don't think he's going to buy any other games or play anything else.
I don't know.
Or finish Final Fantasy VII because of it.
I don't know.
Oh, you're mean.
I might have to buy a PS5 for Integrade, or whatever new version they bring out.
Oh, that girl that really irritated Rob from the trailer because she was wearing a Chocobo outfit or a Moogle outfit.
Yeah. Yeah. I might have to wear a Chocobo t-shirt
I do love how
time.
angry Rob gets around this Japanese stuff.
It's all just so
Which is ironic, because he
stupid.
works for Sega. Oh, speaking of which, the next game also I want to play, Phantasy Star Online 2, New Genesis. That's what I'll be playing as well this year.
Is that one of ours?
Yep, Sega. Phantasy Star was...
I don't know, because some of the old stuff gets farmed out, like Streets of Rage 4, that wasn't us.
You say farmed out, I say licensed to enthusiasts.
Phantasy Star Online has a lot of history with me. It's the first game I played until Sunrise on the Dreamcast. It's the first MMORPG I ever played. I bought 2 copies of the game because I bought one from Computer Exchange, a second hand, and the code to get you online, they didn't actually deactivate, so I had to go back, get pissed off, and then get a second copy of the game. I bought episode 3 on the GameCube, which allowed you to kind of play it again. When the servers went offline for Sega, I played a PC version called Blue Burst, which was a fan-run continuation. I even signed up to the Japanese one of Phantasy Star Online 2 when that came out way back in the day. So this new one, New Genesis, essentially it's Phantasy Star Online 3, but they haven't chosen to upgrade the number. They've overhauled it from the ground up, and it's essentially a similar game, but it should be PSO free. But Sega Japan have decided not to do that. But yeah, no,
I understand some of these words. What?
Oh,
PSO 3. Sorry, Phantasy Star Online 3. Right, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, it's just.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Okay,
No, go for it.
I just wanted to say something. I played the demo of Monster Hunter Rise, right? And I know I didn't put very much time into it, I will admit. But I just went through it, and I was just like, this is my version of what I think it's like, right?
Yep.
So you're this man with a big fucking sword that's bigger than him. And
if you pick
you've
that
got
man.
You've got like a sorry.
If you pick that one.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
Rob will always
if it
pick
was
the
in
biggest
demo.
sword he can get.
The biggest, slowest
Or axe.
weapon. I can't even use the great sword. It's so cumbersome.
It's not a great sword.
It does the highest
No, it's
damage
not.
output, but it's the slowest fucking thing in the world. In fact, if you attached a planet to a piece of string, it would probably move faster than that weapon.
Hang on. Let Rob Rob finish his assassination of the game, and then.
No, I don't know. We could carry this on for the rest.
I'll be
of
honest.
the podcast.
When I bought Monster Hunter on the PlayStation 5, I must admit I went for it. I went with it for a little while, and I just thought, but it simply wasn't me. I think this is it, and this is allowable with games. Some things are you, some things aren't. This is
anyway.
Yeah.
So,
but it sounds like a lot of people are loving this game.
It's really weird because, like I say, the weird thing with the game, depending on what class you play as, the game feels completely different.
Why do they make the default option the shittest fucking weapon then?
It's not the default option there.
It's the one you picked.
I didn't choose.
It's the one you picked.
Choose one.
Because you for the demo you choose a mission and then you choose your class. You pick left and right and go through them all. If you just hammer the button, then you'll pick the first one there. It's not the default one.
Rob is literally pulling out his Switch to test this. Rob, tell you what.
It's not the default.
Chatting,
it's not the default one. Hours. It's left and right, and you'll go through them. Like you've got. I
should have just done this for the last.
You've got
half an hour.
Was it great sword? I think it's great sword. Great sword, long sword, hammer. I don't think it allows you with bow.
So I reckon
you've got switch axe as well. I think.
Anyway, I was running around. I was following the arrow.
Yeah.
And I was with some creature and another thing that was following me.
A cat and a dog, probably.
Yeah. So that's it.
Don't use these technical terms on us, Marcus.
I then found something that I think was the thing that it was pointing me at, and so I ran up to it and I twatted it with this sword, which took forever, and then it just fucking ran off, and then I just had to run after it and try and twat it with this fucking sword again.
Yeah.
And then it fucking ran off. And then I had to run after it with this fucking sword and try and twat it again. And it was just boring.
Did it just run off?
Sorry.
Did it not attack you?
I think, it had a go at me, yeah. But then it was distracted by the other things that were following me around.
So
it doesn't sound like you found the creature, because all of the creatures in there, they'll do more than have a go at you. They'll be on you like a tramp on chips.
I followed the arrow to the thing that it said.
Sorry, that's a beautiful turn of phrase which deserves calling out. I like that. I just like the fact that Rob started channeling his inner Vivian from the Young Ones. Apologies to anyone under the age of 40 listening. The trouble with this game is it's so bloody nice.
Yeah, no, I did have a go. I promise I will try and play it more.
No.
So that I can figure it out.
It is, no, I would say do not ever pick the greatsword. The greatsword is a hard class to use. It does the highest amount of damage, but my god, it's all about positioning and everything else, and I can't be fucked.
The irony is the shit sword is actually quite good.
Sword and shield is quick. Twin blades is quick. The bow is ironically a mid-range weapon. I have hardly used the bow class. It's quite tough. You got two gun classes as well.
Select weapon, right? I have not touched anything.
I
know you probably can't see that.
Well, the listeners certainly can't, Rob.
Yeah, well, if great sword is on
the
there,
first weapon.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to press it. Are there arrows to the left and right?
Yeah, but
then
I don't know
them.
what any of these mean. I don't know what any of them are like.
Well, I'm bloody telling you, great sword is slow. Pick something else.
The great sword is not a great sword. The good sword is 14. Okay. The shit sword is really good. But the really best weapon is the bloody awful sword.
Great sword is short for great big bloody slow sword.
Big sword. Yeah, great means large.
It is literally like, it is great as a support weapon. I've seen people playing it single player. It's all about interrupting. So if the thing's coming towards you, you've got to space your attacks. You've got to space your attacks and then smack it in the face, because you do some of the highest damage. But yeah, because it's so fucking slow. And it's the only way of balancing out the game. If that sword was faster, you would cleave through this game really quickly. Like a knife through butter. But
I've gone for dual swords now, if you will allow me to speak.
It was the size of a tangerine.
Oh, okay, and I'm following the arrow. This is great radio. Yeah, all right, so let me
Rob
just
is
figure out...
playing on his Switch. He shows signs of minor frustration.
The light shines
Right.
from his forehead.
Audio description. His kitchen
Right,
looks
yeah,
immaculate in the background.
I guess it is a bit snappier.
With your dual swords, you've also got a demon mode, which increases your attack. I can't remember which button it is because I've not used the Switch one. But you've got a different mode and stuff and everything else. You can't block with that one. With some of them you can block, some of them you can't. You've also got Lance, Gun Lance, and loads of other classes. And like I said, each one you pick, the game feels different because you approach it differently. So it's almost I mean, I've played one of the gun classes, and then I've gone back to the sword ones, and I've kind of gone, fuck, I've forgotten how to play it. And this is me. This is me with hundreds of hours put into it. I just find it a weird game. It's such a strange game. It almost shouldn't exist in the way it does, but I'm glad it does. But anyway, there's enough people out there that love it, so long may it continue.
Sounds good.
Rob?
Missed that.
Right.
Yeah.
If I get to play it, I shall pick Cannon Spork.
I think you should pick Nuke Headbutt.
Glasgow Kiss. Right.
It does,
So this will be edited out.
Yeah. Oh. Well, the only... It's all part of the fun. Moving off, because I reckon we've probably just done about 40 minutes on that. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
I played a game. It's quite short. It's called Loop Hero, and it's fun.
Nice.
Simple.
Nice.
I was going to go into the brief premise. I quite like. Yeah, basically the premise is it's a little roguelike type thing, and as usual, you know, it's one of those ones. Do a thing until you die, or if you can avoid dying, all good. Basically, when you go out on an expedition, it gives you on a single screen a loop. That you must go around, and each time you do the loop, the enemies get harder, the loot gets better, etc. And what you're trying to do is fill your bag with loot and then get out alive to go back, upgrade your settlement to increase your powers and do things so that you can do your expeditions better and essentially build up and build up. And I've not got to the end game yet to see where it is, but to start with, you're trying to improve your village and get enough stuff there so when you come back with loot, the loot becomes more useful. You can improve your powers. You can affect what enemies you'll encounter when you next go on expeditions and what powers you'll have. All of that stuff. What works very well for me is the fact that you can fire it off and leave it for a couple of minutes. So I find it actually quite a good work from home tool. I can be sitting there doing a document and playing computer games and it doesn't interrupt because essentially it will auto pause on combat or auto pause on finishing a loop. But the combat plays itself out. There's not a lot you can do apart from upgrade equipment. But what you can actually do is just micromanage. You click a couple of buttons, go back, do your next task. And you can play this game as you go along. And it is so Moorish. It's like Pringles. It really is. You just... a couple more loops, build it up. It's a very addictive little gameplay loop. You basically send your little fella around. You can change what weapons, you can change what class he is between the loops. You get different weapons. You know, as you kill enemies on an expedition, you'll get new weapons, new armour, etc. You compare the powers to see how you do it, how he gets his health back, how powerful his attacks are, how quick they are. It manages all of that stuff up. But the aim really every time is to try and fill up your loot bags before you die, get back, upgrade your village and go and just do one more. So yeah, great little game. It's a time killer. It feels like it would be a cracking... I think it might be available on Android mobile. It feels like a really good out and about on a journey type game to me.
Yeah, or perhaps like when you're watching something and you don't have to pay full attention to it.
Oh,
and
a
you can
tablet
just
game, yeah, for when the telly's on in the background. Yep, you could definitely multitask with that.
Like once you've watched the beginning of the F1, and it's all just like,
Yeah,
don't
when
need to watch all
when the
of it.
football's
80
on and
laps
it's
off.
not quite interesting enough. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the only other comment I have is, so one, I'll wait for the tablet version, and two, it looks like utter fucking arse. Like, it looks like
It's
a
not
fucking
pretty.
Spectrum
Oh,
game.
the first thing I did, so graphically, I mean, pixel art's all well and good and cute. The first thing I did was the fonts as a default are in pixel level, but you can change them to an HD format, so the fonts are at least nice.
Okay.
And that fixes a lot of my gripe with it. Because when you can read the words nicely, the gameplay bit's relatively good. And it is a small game. You know, this is not a massive AAA studio. This is a little indie game. But as a tablet, to be honest, Rob, this would be one to get the Switch out on, right? If it's not available on tablet, you pick it up
on that?
Yeah, I believe so. But this one, if you've got the football on at home and you just want to keep an eye on the match, this is the perfect one to do in the background. Similarly, it would be a good commuting game. It doesn't require your full attention, and yet it's a good little game. I think that's the trick. That's what I liked about it. But that's about all I have to say on it.
I think it is only on Steam right now.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, pick it up on when it comes out on next, Yeah,
it's definitely on my radar, but I think it'll be one for a handheld or tablet, casual kind of game. Sort of stuff like, I could play a bit of on the train or something. But it really looks like they've doubled down on that sort of like old aesthetic, like even like the inventory stuff looks like, they've only got about 4 colours to play with, and it's like when they used to pick that, like on Amiga games, you had all like the colours of the rainbow, but they had to they could only load so many of them.
It's worth pointing out though, it's a Devolver Digital published game, and they do have a very close relationship with Nintendo. I think a lot of Devolver games were coming out first, so because they do suit the Switch, they really do. So I think if you see it, there's no value in playing this game on the Xbox or the PlayStation. It's just not that kind of thing. But phones, tablets, Switches. Switch would be king. Absolutely feels like the way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right then. Have you been playing anything else, or can I talk about something I played?
I chuck in something quickly after Will? Very briefly.
I haven't talked about anything yet that I've played, so no.
Okay. It leads on quite nicely.
All right then, go on then.
Well, I was going to say, the only other thing I've been playing recently is, because it was on Game Pass, was Pillars of Eternity. I completed it's a 3-act game, completed the first 2 acts, and frankly, a little bit fatigued. Keep trying to crack into the 3rd act and struggling, just because at first, as you're levelling up your character and new powers come out, that's good, but it's really slowed down for me. So, quite a nice little game. I want to get to the 3rd. I feel that I have to finish the story of the first now, having started it. But it's there on Game Pass, and if you've got more time than me, or dedication, or capability of just sticking with a game, there's quite a lot there. I think it's, I just need to rebuild my character, I think, and try something a bit different. Anyway, that's me.
Yeah, well, you can do a lot of customization. From what I remember, you're able to go to the tavern and you can actually just
switch it back.
Sort of
And I think that's what I'm going to have to do.
You can build your own party, pretty much. So, just in case, if the actual, it's good to have the characters that are actually got the storyline and the companions attached to them.
Yeah.
But if you're just grinding for stuff and you're kind of finding some of them a bit hopeless, like you can just go into
I'm not having a problem with combat. I'm just a bit bored. It's literally, it's not that I can't do anything. I'm playing it on normal difficulty, and I'm just, I can't quite bring myself to bother finding the next quest. I think I just need to find a way to just switch the game up a bit, maybe change the party, maybe. What I would like would to be respec the main character at a different class, I think, or something like that.
Right.
Just to completely refresh it for the next one and learn some new stuff. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a good game. I sound hard on it, but it's more that I can always fall back on playing Overwatch if I'm not quite enthralled by the game I'm playing, and that's what I do, because that's still an amazing game. Anyway, Rob, what have you been playing?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Or was there a market statement? Hang on.
Go on then.
Well, I just wanted to mention just quickly a game that I kind of became aware of, and it's a Kickstarter game, and it's going to be coming out on a few systems. It's called Jitsu Squad, and it's by Tanuki Creative Studio. I think they're a tiny studio, and it's basically a Streets of Rage style side-scrolling action game. I've sent you guys a link on WhatsApp. And it's just it's made by people. Yeah, it's made by people that were fans of like weird old, almost like Samurai Pizza Cats and everything else, and you've got these ninja creatures that beat up a whole host of special creatures.
God,
it's absolutely
that animation
mental.
is like a Japanese unicorn projectile vomiting. That's amazing.
It is bonkers. It looks fantastic for a studio I've never heard of. It's multiplayer as well, up to 4 players, which is crazy.
In the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles style.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's Samurai Pizza Cats sort of style thing. Each character's a bit different, but it looks like people have been influenced by the old Pocket Fighter and stuff like that. So some of the characters change outfits as they're attacking and stuff, certain attacks.
Yeah.
It's got a whole load of crazy beat-em-up depth in as well, like you can delay attacks if you want to do different combos. It's got parrying, it's got loads of different things in there, but it looks a lot of fun, and it's something that I'm going to be getting on the Switch. So I just thought I'd mention it as a sort of another Switch game. It's been mostly funded as well, quite nicely.
Cool.
But yeah, at the moment it's only on Steam. Jitsu Squad. It's like that on purpose. It sounds Japanese because it's
jiu-jitsu.
It's like Samurai Pizza Cats, isn't it? It's just the whole way it's meant to be like that. But it's very much like a Streets of Rage side-scrolling, and you've got bosses and stuff. There was one that I saw, and it was like a fox wolf style person, but his moveset was virtual from Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
He even held the sword the same way and did similar moves and stuff like that. So it's kind of done with a lot of people that are fans of all these games, and there's like lots of weird little funny Easter eggs and stuff. One of the demos I saw, there was like a stage with penguins, and one of the penguins in the background was doing a hurricane kick, a fireball, and a dragon punch. Just in the background for no reason. It was just this animated penguin going through a little loop. And it looks like a lot of crazy fun, and I think I'm going to pick it up. And it might just be one of those ones where I'll go to and just play through, and maybe Suze will jump in as well, and we'll play co-op or something. But yeah, it's the kind of Streets of Rage game that I wanted to get, because I wanted to get the remake that was done not long ago. But I think this grabs me more, so I think I'll be picking this up.
Well, Streets of Rage 4 is actually free on Game Pass at the moment.
Yeah,
which the trouble is, I think Streets of Rage 4 feels like the sort of game I need to sit with couch co-op and play with a mate.
Yeah, it is exactly one of those, which is why I held off playing it.
Yeah, seeing as I've only got the wife up here, and she's actually we played Streets of Rage 2. Maybe I could get her into it. Who could say?
It's one of those things where when you get frustrated by the boss just absolutely owning you, it's everyone going, "Oh, for fuck's sake," and wanting to throw your controller down. It's harks back to that. It's the right side of nostalgia. You get annoyed in the group, you have a beer, and you go, "Oh, fuck it. Should we do it one more time? Should we give it a go?" Yeah, and then that's it, and you'll probably beat it.
Let's crack it. Yeah.
This feels like that. This is kind of like my kind of bonkers level of sort of fun in a kind of crazy way as well. It's just a bit mental. But anyway, yeah, I hadn't heard of it until I saw it pop up on Twitch, like a couple of people, because I get a lot of gaming news and stuff from a couple of Twitch people.
Nice.
Cool. Okay, so finally then, I've just been playing a bit more VR. Played a game.
Sorry.
Yeah, I played a game called Moss, which is just this wonderful little game where you could control this little. You basically play the reader, and so you are in this sort of 3D sort of environment, and there's a little mouse there, and you sort of control the mouse, but the mouse acknowledges you, and you can see yourself sometimes reflected in like in water, reflections of water and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, each level's like a sort of miniature little diorama, and you might have to reach out and move the scenery around. to sort of allow the mouse to navigate their way around. It's not especially long. There are sort of rudimentary combat and jumping, like that's the controls for the mouse. I get the sense that, they've kind of built it to have a little bit more going on, and this is apparently only the first of 3 games, but there has been very little news on any further games in the series. But it is, for what it is, it's just a nice sort of example of how VR doesn't have to be some, because how I was complaining about Half-Life Alyx. One of my only reservations about it really was that it didn't really feel like a game, because for me, I like to sort of chill out and relax a bit when I'm playing games, and Half-Life was the opposite of that.
Most stressful thing in the world, yeah.
Yeah, massively. But it's just a really cool game. I think there was like 7 chapters, probably took me about 2 or 3 hours, which is perfect really for a VR game. You don't want it to go on too long. I kind of was getting a bit of a Secret of Nim vibe, if you ever remember that sort of that Don Bluth cartoon.
Yeah, I remember the words that you just said, but I can't remember what Secret of Nim was, to be honest.
Yeah, it was kind of a fantasy story with lots of anthropomorphized animal characters in like Disney. But no, in that, like, it started with you like in this game, like it sort of introduced each chapter with you turning the pages of this book.
Right.
To actually turn the pages of the book, and you're in this big kind of church. And the other lovely thing about the game is that there's no interface, because obviously that's not really very good for VR.
Yeah.
You have to, like, you can tell when the little mouse is getting fucked up, so because you have to like reach out and just give him a little squeeze, or her. I think it's a her actually. Give her a little squeeze, and that heals her. And so there's all these. There are like these clockwork enemies that sometimes you can possess to sort of allow you to access areas. There's lots of environmental puzzles. There are some. I mean, I played most of the game sat down, but there were a couple of bits where I had to actually stand up and just to be able to judge a jump properly, because from that angle down here, because the mouse was climbing up there.
Yeah.
And I had to sort of like be able to see.
This stuff always comes across so well on a podcast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Rob is standing up on his chair, looking over at a fictional mouse.
But it's. I know I do a terrible job of it, but it is funny talking about games in the sense of like, just like, I don't know, like your orientation, your physical orientation. It's quite unique, and. So I've been just trying to go through it. I've been buying all these games in like Steam sales, finally getting round to them now. The next one I'm going to play, sneak preview, is Trover Saves the Universe, which is created by one of the guys that does Rick and Morty, and it's voiced by Justin Roiland, who does Rick. So that should be amusing.
Nice.
And I think again that's similar, where you're just sort of in the game, but it's just going on around you. So you don't need VR for it, I don't think, but you can play it like that if you want. So that's it. Other than that, still plugging away at Cyberpunk, still plugging away at Valhalla, still plugging away at Gears Tactics. Happy days. I'm really enjoying all of them. So,
nice.
Yeah, brilliant. And there's been, there has been a couple of patches on both Cyberpunk and Valhalla. They fucked up the noise that the horse makes. When it gallops on the last patch, which was very annoying, and they've just patched that back in. So I think I'm going to have a little go on that tonight.
What did they fucked up? I mean, what did it do? Motorbike noises, or
that's exactly where I went to.
No, it made no noise. It made no noise. It's the most Monty Python fuck up ever, because it makes you want to do your own noises.
So you go.
Well, I thought they'd fixed it the other day, and it's only because I had someone on a horse behind me. So why their horses are just fine? Why doesn't my horse make a noise?
What they should have done was got rid of the horse noise and patched in someone with coconuts behind you that just followed you.
That's it, right? Yeah, like a Monster Hunter like entourage. Yeah. Cool. All right. Yeah, I might try and play a bit of that as well. See what those other weapons are like.
Only so we can moan about it more next episode.
Maybe.
I don't care. We're going to play some more of it as well.
Oh, no.
I love it.
It lets you you get like 29 attempts to do a mission on that demo. That's the way it works. Which is still quite a lot. I mean, it's probably
it is a lot,
enough for me.
but I would say don't bother with the was it Magla Mano, whatever one it is, because that one is the hardest one in the game, the new poster boy for the series, and they cheese it so that the timer is difficult. But yeah, so do one of the easier hunts to get a feel of the game. I'm still getting used to it. Like I said, it's weird. It feels a little strange on the Switch, especially with the Nintendo swapping buttons around. You know, their confirmation being
more
A.
like, I hate that. That really upsets me. There's no need
you
for
can
that.
change it. You can change it to B in the game.
Oh no, you can change it in every game, but I want to change it on the console.
That's what I mean. The moment you leave the game, it's like, oh fuck! What am I doing?
I'm sorry. I've built up. God knows how long I've had PlayStations for. 20 years nearly. Yeah, no, probably 20 years I've had PlayStations. I know which button takes me back. Yes. Yep. One button confirms, one button goes back, and that is not what you have done, you mad Japanese bastards.
But that's the problem. Nintendo predate it, but we've played PlayStation longer.
Yeah. Amen. Anyhow.
And Xbox. Yeah.
I think that's it, isn't it? We haven't really got much more this week.
No.
Or this month,
No.
rather.
I am spent.
But, yeah, all right. I think we may have some stuff soon. Actually, you know what? I don't think we'll be back until E3, unless anyone buys something and plays it. There's not going to be much more.
When is E3 this year? I know
normally,
it's June,
isn't it? So, yeah, there's...
It's the same dates.
I don't even know if it'll
it?
be interesting to see if E3 will have some news. It would just be interesting to see how relevant it is.
I should have played a bit of Guilty Gear by then. I think
the thing is, they'll put their flag in the sand, and there will probably be some other your state of plays. And
well,
all that
you'll have the Devolver stuff.
So,
there's going to be some summer. Although, as you sent a link, there's a state of play in a couple of days. God knows what will come out of that.
Yeah, on Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm not hoping for much. It'll probably be some bloody Zack Bandicoot bollocks, won't it?
Zap Bandicoot.
I don't know. Oh, well. Looks like we're getting to Will's bedtime, so shall we end it there?
Sorry. but sadly, it is true. I get up at 5:30.
Different time zones.
Yeah, that's it. So you're running on Essex time, you two.
It's like you're on the west coast of America and we're on the east coast or something.
You know what's weird? E3 is actually going to be on the weekend this time.
I think because it's not happening in real life.
12th of June. It's going to be the 12th of June.
The thing is with
13th,
E3,
14th. Also,
the thing about E3 is they have the dates they put down for it, but then the actual press conferences or whatever they actually take place on the weekend before. So it's around about then, and that's when we'll be back after that, I reckon.
Well, yeah, but around then I'll have played Guilty Gear, and I could give you some impressions of what they've done to it.
If something happens sooner that's worth talking about, we'll come on. But in the otherwise, if the weather warms up, fuck you all. I'll be outside. I'll be in the garden drinking gin and tonic.
With the greatest of affection, ditto.
Indeed.
I might well have played a bit of Ratchet and Clank if that comes out then as well. I just have to put the if it comes out disclaimer on it because I just don't believe anything is going to come out.
It's not out till it's in your hands, Rob.
Yeah, that's right. All right then, guys. Let's call it there. Thanks for listening to the Not Playing Podcast, part of the Not Listening Podcast Network, where you can also find the Not Watching Podcast, where me and Marcus talk about movies and TV, and the Not Listening Podcast, where you can hear Adam, Ash and Will talk about all kinds of nonsensical nonsense. You can email us at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet out or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. You can find the show notes for all our shows at notlistening.co.uk, and if you like what you've heard there, please do leave us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time, stay safe out there.
I'm inclined to agree 'cause I suck at Call of Duty.